Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back, Happy New Year. I'm back from my holidays now and this is a brand new video for 2025. Now what I want to talk about today is a software product called Photomator. It's made by a company called Pixelmator and some of you may already know this, but Pixelmator have agreed in principle to be purchased by Apple. So this makes quite big news, and let me first of all explain what the big mistake is. We photographers are a funny type. What we tend to do is to alight on a brand, whether that be Canon or Nikon or any other camera manufacturer or any other software manufacturer, be it Adobe, be it Affinity, be it DxO, whatever. We tend to choose after a little period of experimentation and then stick, because the consequences of moving are usually too dreadful. If I decide to start using a new camera, it's going to mean selling a collection of something in the region of 15 professional class lenses and 5 cameras. If I decide to choose to change my software basis, I've got 10 years worth of images that I probably won't be able to port, or at least won't be able to port the developing sequences across to another software. But one of the things that I learned when I was working in the IT industry was never close your mind to new developments. There is often something better just around the corner. And let's be fair, Adobe have been making quite a lot of enemies recently, particularly this year. They're putting their prices up. They've nailed their colours to the mast regarding AI. They're going hell for leather towards AI, and a lot of the photographers in the community are feeling a little bit unsettled by this, because suddenly photographers are edging towards the periphery of actually being needed in the Adobe ecosystem. So people are being a little bit unsettled, people are looking elsewhere, and I've already made a few videos about Affinity, which is software that I have a great amount of respect for. I've really enjoyed using Affinity, and I'll be making more videos about Affinity in due course. But today I wanted to look at a real outlier. So Photomator 3.4, it's a raw processing software. The headlines are that it doesn't have camera profiles in the same way that DxO and Lightroom have camera profiles. So that's a minus as far as I'm concerned. But it does have a whole host of other capabilities, including some capabilities that Photolab simply doesn't have, and some capabilities or different ways of doing things that Adobe would struggle to match. It doesn't have the masking capability of Adobe, but it's pretty much on the way. And there is a sister application called Pixelmator, which we'll be doing a video about in a couple of weeks' time, that brings more sophisticated photo processing technology to bear. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's have a good, open-minded look at Photomator 3.4. Here we go. And this is the opening screen. So what I've done is you've got a choice between importing from the file system in the same way that you work with DxO, Photolab, or you can work with Apple Photos. So you can use your Apple Photos library as the content management system, if you like, for Photomator. I choose to use the file system though. Now, On the left you've got your library, so you've got all files, you've got edited, and you have got flagged, rejected, star system. So it's easy to grade them if you like. You can allocate a flag to them. So I can go flagged, rejected, I can set a rating here. Okay, fairly basic, there's no color coding, which I've always found very useful in my attempts to winnow my photographs down to a manageable number. But it's serviceable, it works just fine. Okay, so it's simply a case of telling the system where your files are, and then, so if I click on the add, I can simply navigate to any drive attached to my computer and import more files. Okay, now once we've got the files imported, we can open a file. So double click on it to open it. Now what you'll notice here is immediately there is a very uncluttered workspace. This has benefited really from being designed for Apple from the ground up. This is a very modern interface, and I think sometimes that applications like Lightroom and Photoshop have the weight of 25 years development and really stick with the GUI they have on an iterative basis, and this application, Photomator, is a lot more modern than that. So we can go into the menus up here, we can look at the image options, I can edit with Pixelmator Pro, which is the sister device, so if you're looking for a comparison, Pixelmator to Photomator is the same as Photoshop to Lightroom. I can do some basic operations here, so I can rotate anti-clockwise, rotate clockwise, flip vertical. Are you listening, DxO? This is a capability that DxO do not currently support at all, without buying more software. I can auto straighten. I've got these workflows, possibly not a workflow in the way in which I talk about workflows, which is a sensible way of approaching a workflow from beginning to end, so from import to treatment to export. I've got a tools menu. So I can go to these map onto here, basically onto these icons. So my tools menu, I can do auto enhance, which is the machine learning. I can match colors to another picture. I can do manual color adjustments, as you would expect from an Apple application. This supports HDR content, so in the same way that Lightroom now does. DxO have gone down a different path, but it looks as though HDR content is going to become a standard. We can increase the resolution, we can apply denoise, debanding. We've got a repair tool, a clone tool, and a crop tool. So if we look across here, most of these are available in icons. Okay, so let's run through the tools. Again, we've got this very minimal presentation, so let's have a look and see what the machine learning tool can do. Okay, very quick, and I'm not sure, for me there are probably things wrong with this picture that would need to be fixed before, but it's lightened the picture up, it's made more of the area in the middle, which is the focal point of the picture. Probably I would want to square crop this picture, get rid of the stalk, which is slightly out of focus there. So let's take the machine learning off. I think these things are useful as giving you a view of the art of the possible, if you like. This is one direction this picture might go. Another direction might be that you might want to make it look much more filmic, darker, deeper shadows and warmer colours, and so on. So there's choices to be made. So we'll take that off. Let's have a go at removing this thing here. So very minimal. My brush size, you can see that being reflected at the, and let's just take this off. Okay, and gone. And let's just take this down a little bit further. Okay, so it's done a pretty good job of this, but this isn't a particularly difficult use case, so I'm not sure at this point how good this tool is, but what I will say is it's made a better job of repairing this than the DxO repair tool. Probably not as good as the Adobe repair tools, which are AI assisted these days. Let's take that back. So we'll revert to original, bring that back, and let's have a look at the clone tool. Okay, now what the clone tool does is it allows us to sample an area. So let's move this around. We'll sample this, and it then allows me to drop this in other areas of the picture. Okay, so now let's go down here. So I think we can agree this is fairly rudimentary. You're picking up a circular area. There's no concept of taking this around the perimeter of the part of the plant that I want to move. So this is very rudimentary. It's not blended it particularly well in this area either. I'm not really a big fan of this, so let's revert back to the original. What I think I will do though is quickly go and take this out, because I'm not a big fan of that area of the picture at all. Okay, so happy enough with that. Okay, and I think I'd go for a square crop here. So I'd choose square from my drop-down menu. Here, you'll see that this shows you all the alternatives. I can overlay with any different kind of overlay and get golden ratio, golden spiral, center, and so on. This is quite useful for helping a crop. But I'm going to go with my square, and I'm going to move this around by eye. And really I'd like it to be a little bit more. Okay, let's go with that. Okay. So now we've got a crop, we can get a good look at this picture. You see this has been taken with a macro lens. This was the Canon 180 L lens, very, very sharp in the plane of focus at the front of the plant, falling off a little bit towards the back. And this is where the lens awareness thing would actually come in useful, because I might be able to, certainly in Adobe Lightroom and in DxO, I can look at the settings that this picture was taken with. Hang on a minute, I may be able to do that here. There's a show info piece, And actually, I take it all back. This is useful because I've got this on f10. So we're quite a deep depth of field, but what this is telling me is that either I need to step back a little bit to get more. I really would like to have had this area in focus as well. And this is not an easy thing to see on the back of the camera, but anyway, we digress. I can get my info should I need it. Okay, but let's close that. And now let's go to the color grading tools. So these are color adjustments. Okay, so here are the color adjustments, and this is the nitty-gritty of this application. So what have we got here? We've got our revert to original, we've got our split screen to preview once we've started to make some adjustments. I've got the scale there, double click on that to return it to fit. I've got the file name here and the measurements. I've got the histogram here, show me the RGB values, and my tooling is here. Now we can see that there is some support for layers. So if I pull this down, I've got a raw layer here. And what I might want to do to keep this separate is add a color adjustment layer. So this would be simply in the name of good practice. So I've always got my original here. So I'll simply add a color adjustment layer. Right, you can see that here, we're on this layer. Okay, so here we can make our adjustments. So white balance, I tend to let the camera choose this, and then I can adjust it here should I need to. I can do this by letting the program do it. It will give me a machine learned color adjustment. I actually prefer it the slightly warmer one that the camera chose. I can use the dropper if I've got a grey area in the picture. There's nothing particularly there. And I've got my temperature and tint, so I can warm this up more, take it down, double click returns it to the 0, and my tint. Now the one thing that I'll say about these straight off the bat is that these sliders are beautifully calibrated. It's nothing terribly sudden, and it's kind of subtle and kind of classy, I think. I like the way that these operate. I'm going to leave this color temperature. I might just actually warm it up a tiny little bit more. Okay, now our histogram is telling me that this is underexposed and that we've got blacks that can't you see. So let's set the black point. Okay, so if I take this to the left, I can see my blacks moving away on the left in there. So I think I quite like it as black as that. And I might want to drop my shadows. Again, what it doesn't have is any sort of warning about whether we're crushing the blacks or not, but we very obviously are here. This is right up against the corner. I would tend to just drop them ever so slightly. There, it still moves, still got a little bit of room there. And that I think is quite good. My highlights are quite bright, but you can see how this is quite a subtle adjustment. I'm going to leave that as is. The histogram would like me to increase the exposure and take it over towards the right a little bit, and that's where it would begin to clip, but I kind of like it. I think that's a little bit, that's probably about where I would put it. So we've got 11% plus in exposure. Brightness, let's just have a look and see what this does. Right, that's quite, I don't think we need to trouble ourselves with that. Contrast, of course, is a global. And again, you can see here, this isn't producing the sort of crunchy contrast that so many applications do. This is all quite subtle and quite nice. It's global, but we can get on to that a bit later. We've got texture here, and we can add a little bit of clarity just to boost the clarity here. Now we've also got selective clarity here. So I've got shadows, midtones and highlights, and I can adjust my texture and clarity for the shadows, for the midtones, for the highlights. I don't think I need to do anything there. My hue, again, I can change that to a more different color combinations. I'm going to double click on there and leave that alone. I can increase my saturation across the board, or I can desaturate it to the point of being black and white. And with this kind of picture, vibrance is simply going to saturate the colours that are not already saturated in the picture. So what you'd expect from the vibrance is to see the greens start to come up, and actually they do. I can also choose selective colours here, so I can choose my green scale if I wanted to, and change the hue, the saturation and the brightness here. Now my colour balance, again, would be familiar with this. The one difference here, again, this is pretty subtle. So in my highlights, you can see that there are changes being made, but they're nowhere near as abrupt as the DxO version. I can change the saturation, and I can change the luminance of the highlights, so you can see that happening in this area here. Levels. I've got darks, mediums and whites. So if I keep this on the RGB, I can, by moving this slider here, I can effectively amplify the highlights. By moving this slider, I can darken my darks and change my mids in the middle. I don't think there's anything I actually need to do that, but just to go into here, we can do this in terms of luminance. Take that back and look at my curves. Now here, again with an eye on the histogram, I'm going to drop my just a little bit here and just make this pop a little bit more. And again, the same thing, I can do this in terms of luminance. I could do it on the red channel, I could do it on the green channel. Let's have a look at that. So if I increase my greens, decrease my greens, I can do it on the blue channel. Now this is a great way of fine-tuning the colour in your pictures, is using these RGB curves. I can replace the colour completely. Now this is something that neither DxO nor Lightroom have. This is different. So my source colour, let's have a go at changing these greens. And I can choose an area in the picture, or rather, let's do a swatch, let's make them blue. I can change the range of that choice. So there's my original, that's the 100%. So it's picking up a range of colour here. And I'll take that back. So again, that's my original. I can do black and white conversion, and within that I've got the channel mixer here, so I can alter the emphasis of the RGB channels here. I've got tone and intensity at 100. I can modify this and bring some of the colour back if I want. Okay, we'll take that off. Colour monochrome. Again, we can make a sepia or any other colour. Channel mix is the same as it is in the DxO. I can import LUTs, LUTs. I can put a vignette on it, which draws my attention towards the centre. That's a little harsh for my liking, so I'd make that more subtle. I can apply sharpening. Okay. And I've got to say, it does this pretty well. So if I apply sharpening, it's not looking over sharpened, and I'm not seeing the sort of terrible artifacts that tend to come out of poor quality sharpening tools. And I can add grain, and the intensity of my edit is global. So all of this I can adjust a little bit. Okay, let's take that back to fit. So, okay, so that's pretty much it. And the one thing I didn't mention is I've got all of these presets down here. So I can do a black and white preset, choice of black and whites. I've got cinematic presets, so I can apply the presets, or I can go with my own edits here. So take that off, that gives me back my edit. Okay, and the final thing here is to do done. So finish editing this picture, and immediately you will see this has got an extra little icon linking it to the raw file, and it's here in my edited as well as being here in my all files. So I can go back to this and I can do more edits if I want, and it retains all the information about the edits that I already had. Okay, layers and masks. So we've already made an adjustments layer. So we've got our colour adjustments here, we've got our original raw layer here. So have a quick look. We've got rudimentary support for masks. There's no intersections as there are in Photoshop or Lightroom. But we can have a mask, we can do select subject, we can select sky, we can select background. We can use a brush. We've got linear gradients and radial gradients and colour ranges. So there's a fair degree of masks. So let's just put a colour range mask in, pick a colour from the image, we'll go for this one. Okay, and we can now refine that mask so you can see the extent of the mask there. And now any adjustment I make will be applied to that colour only. So let's just take the highlights off it, just to make the point, increase the shadows, and you can see this is applying only to the mask. The histogram at this point is reflecting only what we see in the mask, and that's the icon that tells you that we're looking at effectively a masked picture. Now we can see here I can turn this off, and that will bring me back to my original. We've got the raw layer, we've got the adjustments, turn on the mask again, and you can see the effect it's having on the picture. Okay, it is possible to subtract from a mask. So if I go in here, I can add to it. I can use another mask to extend the range of this mask, or I can use a brush. But if I wanted to subtract, let's just demonstrate that with the brush. We've got to reveal. Okay, so now I can go in here with my brush and I can just brush away the area that I don't want to be affected, and you can see that there. So now if I go back into my color range, and you can see that the color range itself is now comprised of a brush mask and a color mask. Okay, so let's go to that. We can change the intensity of that mask, and you can see that this is now not applying to any of these areas, so because we've got a minus adjustment on it. Okay, so that we can go back and we can change, just to demonstrate this, we can see that the highlight is increasing just the area without the subtracted tones in it. So that's masks. I believe that there are more sophisticated tooling available in Pixelmator, and of course this application is made specifically for Apple, but also specifically to integrate with Pixelmator, and we'll be having a closer look at that in a subsequent video. I've been really impressed with it, I have to say. It's not a professional ready tool, but what has been implemented to such a high standard. It's really surprised me a lot, and I've really learned a lesson from this in that I really ought to be more open-minded about looking at other types of software and hardware. I think Photomator is very good. I'm having a look at Pixelmator, and we'll see what the two of these programs combined can do together. If you want to get hold of this, it's Apple only. That is the big drawback. So it doesn't support PCs. It's been made for Apple, designed for Apple, has been or is about to be bought by Apple. There is no immediate prospect of this coming into the PC world, but it'll be interesting to watch this space simply because the quality of what they have done is so good. If they could add things like lens profiles and camera profiles to this, tweak a few of the things to give us, I noticed I wanted color coding available on my grading of the pictures so that I could know which ones were keepers and which ones were maybe work on them a bit later status. If they put some serious investment into this product, I could very easily see this toppling Adobe for a lot of people, particularly in the Apple universe. But let's see what happens. It's very difficult to second guess corporations. Whatever they do, they will do it for the money. And on that note, thanks for watching, guys. If this has been useful or even interesting, give us a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you with another video next week. Thanks a lot and Happy New Year. Bye now.